Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Chase at Rocky Mountain ATVMC, and today we're going to share with you our top 5 mistakes that riders make learning to jump. Congratulations, you are learning to jump your motorcycle. Now I will admit that I think that for somebody who's just starting out, learning to jump is probably one of the most intimidating things, especially if you've had a bad experience before. I've had a lot myself when I was learning to ride. So today we want to share with you our top tips or our top mistakes that we see riders making as they're learning to jump that if you can recognize these mistakes and if you're making these, it will help you out tremendously, because that way you know what you're doing wrong and you can make the corrections to be safe and learn how to jump. Now we do have a great top 5 tips video where Adam Mentichnat goes over the proper things you should be doing to jump your dirt bike. So today we want to do the opposite, and we want to point out what you might be doing incorrectly and help you do that better. So the first mistake that we see riders making learning to jump is not having the correct body position. As you're learning to jump, first of all, you want to be standing up. I do not recommend trying to learn how to jump sitting down unless you're seat bouncing. That's a more advanced tip. We'll talk about that later. But when you're first learning to jump, you want to be standing up and you want to be in a good neutral position. You're squeezing the bike with your legs, your hips are out behind you, and your handlebars are going to be right underneath your chest. This is a good neutral position as you're going off the motorcycle. You will see top level guys where they're really far forward over the handlebars as they're going off a jump. That's because they're trying to really keep the front end down and compress the suspension. That's an advanced technique. Don't try that when you're just learning. You want to be in a neutral body position. Too far forward, if you get a kick off the lip, it's going to send you into an endo, and if you're too far back, what we like to call the boner air, it's a rocket ship. Front end is really high, and then next thing you know, you're panicking in the air because you think you might loop out when you land. So you want to have a good neutral body position as you go off the lip. So the second common mistake that we see is hitting the jump in the wrong gear. Now look, I guess you could say there's no wrong gear to hit a jump, because as long as you've had the speed and you clear the jump, sounds good. But here's what we recommend, is try and hit the jump in a taller gear. And here's why. The lower the gear that you're in, let's say you're hitting the jump in second gear, when you chop the throttle, and this is a mistake that a lot of riders make that will lead us into our next tip, is if you chop the throttle as you're about to go off the jump, you get the engine braking puts all the weight towards the front, and you go into an endo. And sometimes we're in such a bad endo, you're saying your prayers because you think you might not see tomorrow. So what you can do to help combat that is go in a taller gear. Try hitting jumps in third or fourth gear. Now, if you're coming out of a corner and you need that extra acceleration and torque to get over a jump, yeah, you got to go to lower gear. But go to third, go to fourth gear off a jump face. That way, if you do make the mistake of chopping the throttle as you're leaving the lip, the engine braking won't be as severe and you're not going to endo as badly, and it will just smoothen everything out. So that's a helpful tip. Try to hit jumps in a taller gear. So tip number 3 is something that we just briefly talked about. A big no-no is chopping the throttle when you're leaving the face. A lot of riders, and I understand why, you're coming up to a jump and maybe the last second you get a little bit nervous, you tense up, or you just have that doubt in your mind. So what do? You chop the throttle right before you leave the jump. That's a no-no because, like we mentioned with engine braking, chances are it's going to throw you into an endo, which sucks. So what you want to do, again, be in that gear taller if you can, stay consistent, stay steady on the throttle. Just keep that gas on all the way up and all the way off the jump face. You don't want to be accelerating too much as you're going off the jump face. You definitely don't want to chop the throttle. And another little tip there is, try not to accelerate too hard going up a jump unless you know you have good traction. As example, riding today, there was a section down lower where it was greasy. I did a scorpion. I thought I wasn't going to see tomorrow. So be steady on the throttle. That's going to really help the bike stay balanced in the air as long as you have that good body position, and everything's going to work out. So common mistake number 4 is guessing speed to hit jumps. If you are learning to jump, the last thing you want to do is just assume you know what gear or how fast you should be going to hit a jump. Now with some jumps, like this little tabletop right here behind me, it's easy. You can see the takeoff, you can see the landing, so that's a pretty safe jump to assume, okay, I know how fast I should be going to hit that jump. But if it's a jump that's maybe a little bit out of your skill level or out of your comfort zone, don't just wing it. Don't just send it and hope for the best. That's how bad injuries happen. What I recommend, if it's a tabletop, start in increments, jump halfway, jump 3/4 of the way, and work your way up until you can clear the entire thing. If it's a double, where there's a lot of risk and reward, don't just send it. A great example of that is today we're out here at this amazing track, literally on a golf course. There is a booter. It's over 100 feet. It's big risk versus reward because there is a big gap. And if I come up short and I knuckle that thing, I'm gonna bounce off the planet basically, and I could risk getting hurt really, really bad. There's nobody up here with me today that's done it before, so I don't know what gear I should be hitting it in. I don't know the speed that I should be carrying in. So you know what? I didn't do it. I swallowed my pride and said, live to ride another day. And if there's another rider up here another time that's done it before, I'll ask him what he's doing. Maybe I'll follow him off so I know the right speed. But don't just guess on speed. That's how injuries happen. So either work your way up or talk to somebody that's at your skill level and ask them how they're hitting that jump to get some good advice. All right, last mistake that we see is riders not squeezing the bike with their knees as they're going off a jump. You gotta be squeezing your knees. This is something that we always beat to death. Doesn't matter where you're riding your dirt bike on the track, you're squeezing the knees. And we all know why. That gives you control of the motorcycle. You're squeezing with your knees, you're in that good rider attack position, you're in the neutral body position over the bike. But if you don't squeeze your knees as you're leaving the jump face, you know, not every jump face is perfect. There's little kickers on them. You have cupped out jump faces, and a lot of times your rear tire hits one of those and it kicks the bike left to right. And if you're beginning and that happens to you and you're not squeezing the bike kicks out left or right, you panic a little bit. You freak out because you think you're gonna high side when you land. A way to combat that and to have more control over the bike so that doesn't happen is just focus on, again, squeezing the bike. So if you do get a little kick left or right, you're squeezing. That's really gonna help slow that down, control it, and it's gonna make you more confident as you're learning to jump. So there you have it. Those are our top 5 mistakes that we see riders make while they're learning to jump. So ask yourself, are you making these mistakes? And if you are, go out, work on those. Watch that video with Adam Mentiknap where he talks about some of the other good tips to help you out. But in any case, be safe out there. Please follow these tips. Don't get hurt. Live to ride another day. And let us know how your experience has been. Were there mistakes that you were making when you were learning to jump for the first time? What were some of the tips and tricks that maybe other riders shared with you to help you get better at that? If you do have more questions or comments, leave those below. If you like this top 5 tips video, get subscribed to the Rocky Mountain YouTube channel because we have a lot more just like it. I am Chase, and we'll see you on the trails.